Thank you, Nigel. So, questions to Nigel? Thank you, Rachel.
Hi, Nigel. Great talk, really interesting to see what's happening in the UK. I don't know if you mentioned it, but I read in one of the reports or papers that the nest size that you're finding are kind of small in comparison to what is in mainland Europe. Do you have any idea of why that might be?
That's a very good question. We have some guesses. I would not be any more positive than that. Yeah, so far all the nests have been, this year the nests have been bigger. It's later in the year, obviously, and off the top of my head, they're just over 30 centimetres. But up to now, none of the nests have been that big. Now, maybe the queens are coming in later in the year when they're coming in and coming into the country, and that means they're not getting so big. If they're coming in over winter, maybe it's our climate. They just don't have long enough and warm enough. That's in contrary to the models, if you like, but does seem to be the fact so far. So it's an interesting question.
Yeah, that's really good because in Ireland we had the one earlier this year, but obviously we're not at the point of any nests, so that's something that we need to consider as well. So we're definitely keeping an eye on the UK situation. See how that develops.
It's an interesting thing if we compare to when we send our inspectors to Jersey, because if you look at exactly the same time, when they're in Jersey, it's easy finding these nests comparatively. The difficulty there is you have many nests in an area, so separate hornets coming to a trap can be coming from different nests, and hence why Pete's work, that's going to be mentioned later on, Kennedy's, is very important there. For us, that's not been the issue because we've not got these multiple nests. But the other part with that is you've not got the number of hornets. So you are absolutely relying on somebody spotting that one hornet visiting, in many of these cases it's been one hornet a week visiting beehives. We're not getting the numbers that are seen in France. And that can be quite tricky, and that does depend on that awareness. And you almost have to go to the degree of scaremongering to get that awareness out there, and that's a tricky one because then you're dealing with lots of alerts.
Point. Thank you.
Yes, Peter.
Thank you.
I guess you would have a question, Pete.
Actually, it follows on quite nicely from Rachel's because something that is quite striking is that the nests that were located this year sightings were reported much later, a month later than in previous years. And I'm just sort of wondering whether you have any idea whether nests have to grow to a certain size such that you get sufficient hornets that the public start noticing the hornets. So is there a relationship between nest size and when hornets are being reported? This year, I think that other people have often said that the Asian hornets have started later in the season across Europe. So whether that could be the explanation for the later sightings in October. But then you also mentioned, I think, that this year's nests were actually larger than in previous years. So I'd be interested in your view.
Yeah, all your points are right there, and I agree with you. Whether or not I can give you a scientific answer, I don't think so. But so the nests are 5 centimetres bigger this year than before. We've only got a sample size of 2, so I don't think scientifically there is much to go on there. But your point about the weather ties in. Yes, it was a late spring here. Again, so that could be the reason for them to start off. I think you're absolutely right. I think there is a key point, and I think Jersey will give us more information on that where, if you like, spotting is directly linked or proportionate to nest size. Certainly, as primary nests are just missed with a single queen. There's no, they are just missed. However, as they get bigger, there are more chances of it being seen. But I don't think we've got enough data to prove that in any way, Pete, as I think you're aware.
Thank you, Nigel. More questions? Questions in the chat? No? Okay. So thank you so much, Nigel.
You're welcome.
We have a, sorry, wait a minute, Nigel. We have a question in the chat.
Oh, I'm back.
Carolina asks, does the sightings of nests relate with the tree leaves failing in autumn?
No, because it's the hornets that are sighted, not the tree leaves. So this year, it's the only time when it's made it easier for us to spot the nest because, yes, the leaves have come off, but the general area was found, if you like, by the sightings of the hornets themselves, not the nests. We haven't had any sightings of nests themselves without having hornets to track and trace first. In previous years, all the trees they've been, or bushes or whatever, have been fully covered, as in many of the photos you can see on B-Base, and nests have been very hard to see. But you're right, this year, because it was later, yes, we were in fall, and yes, they were a bit more visible. But that's not the reason we found them. They could have gone on unseen there if we hadn't had the calls out from the members of the public and done the track and trace.